America, is it too late to save you? Will foreign troops invade your soil? Will government enslave you? Will the greatness that was once your crown be trampled in the streets? Oh, America, don't let your name go down in such defeat. America, America, the tide is rising fast. Don't you think it's time now to remember your great past? America, America, now the tide can still be turned. Just open up your eyes and see the lesson to be learned. America, America, once God's word was your standard. How gradually you've compromised, how far you finally wandered. For the years of silent apathy, to God we now repent. For the years of work we might have done, that's already now been spent. America, America, the tide is rising fast. Don't you think it's time now to remember your great past? America, America, now the tide can still be turned. Just open up your eyes and see the lesson to be learned. America, America, this land needs Jesus now. If he's confined within the church, its walls will crumble down. We must awake, we must arise for his kingdom to secure. We know the battle has been won, yes, the victory is sure. America, America, the tide is rising fast. Now don't you think it's time now to remember your great past? America, America, now the tide can still be turned. Just open up your eyes and see the lesson to be learned.
Your host, welcome again to another edition of Where is America? This is another interesting program, topics that others won't dare touch. We're going to listen to René give a talk. What about? Well, we didn't really land on the moon. He's going to present his theory and ideas about why he believes we really did not go to the moon. He's written a book with a lot of proof, and it's called NASA Mooned America. He gives you a lot of the pictures in here in his book, which I encourage you to send for because it's a lot clearer in the pictures in the book to see what he's talking about. And he shows you various shots and why he believes that these were done in a studio. Well, you must keep an open mind as usual for our programs on Where is America, and prove things out to yourself as always. Thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy the program.
Taught himself structural and mechanical engineering, which led him back to physics. Over the years, he sketched and built prototypes for numerous inventions, but limited finances allowed him to apply for and be granted only 2 basic patents. He was crippled by arthritis 20 years ago and started his research and writing on scientific anomalies. During these years, he produced 100 controversial columns for various Mensa publications, and he wrote 7 books. Both are nonfiction. The Last Skeptic of Science was the first, and NASA Mooned America was the last. And here we have tonight, I'm proud to introduce René, and he will fill you in on the rest of the details.
Thank you, John. I'm not so much going to lecture as just plain talk. I got involved with this, the moon deal, when the Rand Corporation from California sent me a nice little letter, and it said, "Oh, bright Mr. Inventor," because I was a member of Mensa, and I have patents, so they must have done a double research with the computer run. And do you have any free ideas on space to give to poor old NASA? And I had a couple running around in my head, so 3 or 4 went out to them. They never acknowledged receipt. I heard nothing from them. The years went by. One day, I get a magazine. It's America at the Threshold. It's from the Superintendent of Documents. It's full color. It's glossy. And what it's doing is touting NASA's upcoming trip to Mars, manned, of course. And it's only going to cost us $1 trillion. Okay? And I took one look at this thing and I said, $1 trillion? And I read it first, and then in the back on page 851 I found my name. And the name was there because one of my ideas at least had passed 3 to 4 sequential screening committees, but it was also there like I was touting this trip to Mars. By this time I had run across Bill Casey's book, We Never Went to the Moon, and while he didn't make his case, I mean, it started the little wheels going, dee, 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 because over the years I had seen on public television the flag salute ceremony 1,000 times, we all have. But every once in a while, the flag ripples. See, they had 6 of these ceremonies. You don't know which one you're looking at. But the flag ripples, and you go, and it's gone, it's over with, you know. And then the rover, when they step on the throttle like we did as kids, I mean, every red light was a road race. Tires screaming, gravel flying. And it hits the ground just as fast on the moon as it does here. I'm looking at these things and I'm saying, gee, there's something wrong there. So, between Bill Casey's book and this America at the Threshold, I took my anger at them taking my name like I was a big NASA booster. I took a magnifying glass and I started going like this. And then I started saying things like, "Oh my God, oh geez." Went to the library, took the books out, allegedly written by these astronauts, and I found statements in there that are completely contradictory to what has to be. So I started writing them down. In the meantime, I got in touch with Bill Casey out in California, told him what I had, and he started jumping up and down and saying, "Well, I'll publish it if you write it." I wrote it. He didn't publish it. So now I've got my 6th or 7th book, unpublished, in my hand, first draft, good first draft, done. What do I do now? So I ran into another fellow who swore he was going to publish it too. He took 11 months. He didn't publish it either. Then the Spotlight ran 2 articles, feature articles, and people started writing me, "I want the book." So I published it myself, and that's why we're here tonight. To start off with, I want to show you this little cartoon I had made up, which tells most of the story. Can somebody bang the first 2 lights behind the coats, I think? No, they're behind the coats. The next box over. There you go. And that's the way I feel. We never laid a boot on that moon. We put probes up there. The shuttle does go around underneath the Van Allen shield, but man has yet to go there. There's good reasons for it. My book details that. Number 1 picture. before we get started, this was taken before the Gemini missions of the astronaut Collins in a zero-G, number one, find it? In a zero-G parabolic airplane drop where you go into a state of anti-gravity. Take a good look at this picture. These are nylon straps. The angle of the straps, the position of his knees, the soles of his shoes, right? That's the gun, the propulsion gun, which he's learning to propel himself. It's in his right hand. Obviously, the man's righty. Up in the air there is another man standing in guard, so he doesn't bounce to that end of the plane. And down at the bottom, there should be an elbow. I don't see it here, but anyway, there's two men sort of guarding him, caging him in, so that when the plane comes out of this thing, he don't go flying off and smack into something. Put up number 2, please, Mike. Again. Now, remembering the first one, look at the second one. We'll go on to picture number 3, which is the original. The one I had, these two pictures were snatched out of Collins' book. And I'm waiting for him to sue me for copyright infringement or something. He never does. I had to rip them right out, and I took them and had them processed. But this picture is a NASA picture of that same thing. Now there's the man up in the air. Where's his elbow?
Too much heat on this.
Too much? Crank it. Crank. Real quick, take a look at the first two pictures. You people examine it with critical eye. Is the first one's getting shot too? No, that's okay. Just sort of remember the position of the nylon straps, the angle of the gun. This is all nylon down here, and that curled strap there, and this is like a cord right here. Okay, pop the other one in. Number 2. So as I read the book, I had hit that first picture first. It was a double page picture in the centerfold. And I saw this one second. And all of a sudden I said, what's going on down here? Gee, why is he now practicing with the propulsion rod in his left hand? People don't do that. If you're righty, you use your right hand. If you're lefty, you use your left hand. Is he ambidextrous? So I had picture 3 made, which was made out of picture 1, but flopped over.
A lot of curl to it.
Real quick. No, 3. I'm sorry, 4. 4 should hold up. Different process. Now, here he is. He's flopped over. Huh? Oh, now the gun's in his left hand. There's the soles of his feet. This line here is the seam in the center of the page, of course. And look at the expression on his face. So then I took picture number 2 and I blew it up. That'll be number 5. And I blew it up to the same, to match the size of this one here. What do you see, guys? Huh?
It's blackening in the background.
Do you see anything a little bit familiar over here? If I take the negative of one and put it over the picture of the other, it's point for point, and vice versa. So either, well, he never walked in space. That's the only conclusion you can come to, because they are identical pictures. They were made from the first picture. Now we move on and we go to number, what are we up to?
60.
Number 6. Oh, this is a beauty. This is the Gemini 6A capsule as it came in and was photographed after its re-entry through our atmosphere. Now, this guy is on a headset, which is plugged into a jack someplace in the capsule. These two are frogmen. They were dropped from a helicopter. I mean, they didn't swim across the middle of the ocean to get to this capsule. Right overhead is a chopper, a big one. Has a radio. How big, Mike?
Well, it'd probably be at least 25 watts.
Reach all over the world with that sucker, right? Or close to it. So they could have used a walkie-talkie because they're only talking up to their chopper. But instead, what do we see? We see a fiberglass antenna going right on up to the sky. There's no well down here. It's not a folding one. It's not a collapsible. So obviously, even though it's supposed to hit 5,000 degrees when you drop something back in our atmosphere, this is fiberglass. You can burn that up with a match. So either these guys landed with that brand new antenna in their arms, and the first thing they did was bolt it and install it and plug it all together just to make the headset work when they could have carried a little walkie-talkie, or this capsule was dropped from a C-5A or one of those ships. I forget the number on it. I think it's the 16th Apollo mission. And the biggest thing on this picture, in case it curls, I want to get to that. Do you see this antenna here for the rover? That white cross? Everybody see that?
It's a non-directional, low gain.
Yeah, well, it's here.
VHF antenna.
That's why I passed around those other pictures, hoping that you remember it. It's over the Hasselblad range-finding cross. It's impossible. These crosses superimpose themselves on top of the picture.
They're generated in the camera, right?
They're generated internally. This cross somehow wound up on top of the crosshair. That's like taking a rifle with a rifle scope and you're going to shoot that deer, but you can't see the crosshair because the crosshair is on the other side of them, visible to the guy in the back. There it is. I mean, I didn't do it. I didn't even know the name for this trick until I was at the bookshelf, and some kid walked over and he took a look, and he took a look, he shook his head, he said, "That's superimposition." I said, "Thanks." Now I know the name. See, that's superimposition. When you do that, they have carefully scalpel cut this picture out of another picture and pasted it onto this scenery. All the time, and that's not almost all the time, almost 100% of the time, right back past the object of interest, you'll see rocks, pebbles, little tiny holes, boom, boom, boom. Here, what? Bland. Suddenly, there's a demarcation line that just says, no more features. Of course, NASA says that's because the moon is small in perspective. Perspective has nothing to do with curvature, but that's their excuse. This is a painted backdrop. It can be nothing else. Well, I don't think they carried that to the moon, so obviously that indicates studio. These shadows on the rocks go off in one direction, and the shadows from man and machine go off in another. Now, yeah, if you have something tilted, skewed at a good angle, you'll get a different angle of shadow. But all the rocks are skewed at that angle, and the rover and the man is skewed at some other angle. No. The best part of this is down here.
Big C.
There's a big C, a letter C, on that rock. Now, that rock is on the moon. So, what do we got? We got the man and the moon involved, huh? I mean, there it is. Somebody drew that C on that rock. Did he do it? He couldn't get his hand down there. This is done in Hollywood. The set designer goes out with little placards and he goes boom, 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 cue marks. And the people that do this thing, I forget what they're called right now, they go out there carrying this prop rock. It's made of paper mache. And they see C on the rock, C on the card. They say, oh, this is the C rock. Only here, they're professionals and they're smart enough to turn the rock upside down. So the audience doesn't see a C on the rock. These clowns, I did it, boss. Yeah, I did it. Oh, here's another beauty. I've been in a lot of vehicles in my life, all kinds of vehicles. But I have never been in a vehicle that could take a right-hand turn. A right-angle turn, let's put it that way. Not a right-hand turn, a right-angle turn. Look at the tread marks. Boom. Boom. Plus it jumped over the rock when the pictures are clear. You don't know how it got here. Because the track's there, the track ain't there, the track backs up, the track goes forward. Right-angle turn. Some wit from NASA said, well, that's because it's got four-wheel steering. Well, if you turn them sideways, the thing will move sideways then. I mean, the vehicle really doesn't know which way the front is. You tell it the front. You say, these are the front wheels, they're going to steer you. But if you turned all four wheels this way, the thing would be, the chassis would be at right angles to the wheels. So that doesn't hold water. We got that one? Yeah, pretty well.
How did they ever deploy that, René? Did they ever show
picked it
a
up and
picture of
carried
how
it.
that got?
Oh, yeah, I got that in a technical book. With sketches, of course. There's a lanyard. First thing, this thing weighs 500 and some pounds, earth weight. They mounted that eccentric to the main nozzle. Okay? We were on a ship, right? when they're loading heavy, you've got somebody there with a slide rule today, it'll be a computer, saying, don't put that load over there. Don't you do it. Right. To what? To keep it stable. Right? Well, if you take a 33-foot wide diameter sphere, especially in an airless vacuum, and it's got a very carefully positioned center jet, right? And you come down, you've got those little thrusters up on top going pss, 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 holding it stable, you might be able to do it. They never could in our atmosphere, you know, they failed every time. You might. Give them the point. But if you load 550 pounds, eccentric to that load, the thing's going to come in like a pinwheel. There's no fighting. I mean, it's just going splat. So they pull the lanyard, and this thing comes down. The wheels are all folded up. I guess the chassis is folded up. I don't know. But they pull the lanyard, down it comes, and they go click, pop. Voila, one rover. That's, you know, maybe, maybe not. I doubt it. Next one. Down on the other side there. Bring it over a little bit. There it is. This LEM is 33 feet in diameter. The shadow from this LEM is this right here. Okay, you get a skinny shadow from a fat critter. I don't know how, I've never seen that, but there it is. This flag, here's the line of the pole, the shadow line of the pole. Comes up here, and here's the shadow of the flag. Okay? This line right here. This, believe it or not, is a line cord which somehow they laid out. Obviously, there's only 2 of them on the moon. And foot traffic semi-buried it. If I do this at Coney Island at the height of the season, it takes half a day to bury a line cord. 10,000 people have to go over it. Here, it gets buried in a matter of hours. They must have been kicking it. Clean it up for the pictures. We have flagpole, shadow, flag, shadow. Man jumps up in the air. No shadow. The guy's so good, he's got such the right stuff that he can leap up in the air and out-jump his shadow. Must be. I mean, there's no shadow. We come back here, we look, here's all our nice rocks, see the moon, all the little rocks in the rills, and suddenly we have a hill. Bland again, featureless. But the other part of it is, since there are no clouds, there's no cliffs around here, there's no humidity, there's no dust, there's no atmosphere. See how bright this is? That hill should be the exact same brightness. There's not, I mean, you know, a little bit for distance you would lose, but not like this. What happened? Backdrop, I guess.
There's probably any stars.
There's never stars. But that's been explained the way that they didn't have the film speed back in those days to take the stars. Of course, they could have slowed down the shutter just a little bit and said, hey, look, guys, this is what you see from the moon. Look at the planets. Look at the Earth in the background. Here's all these stars. And the reason they couldn't do it is because back then we had no computer graphics. Today, they could do it. But if they had issued a phony picture on the stars, there's 2 million people in the world, star buffs, who would have went, whoa, whoa, hey, wait, hold it, something's wrong. And they knew that. They even tried to hook a planetarium up. They built a planetarium. You know how that works. That's a thing like this, only it's a sphere. It's got little pinholes in it, and a bright light says, there's your stars, there's your constellations, on a silvery painted ceiling in the pitch dark. But because the lights are so, what's the word I'm looking for?
They're not intense enough.
They're not intense enough. You can photograph them, still, you know, big wide opening, but you can't really make it work.
With a bright foreground.
With any kind of a colored foreground. If there's one match in there, you don't see those stars. So they tried. They couldn't do that. Go ahead, give it the next one. Oh, this is a good one. I like it. This is one of my favorites. Clean it up a little bit, Mike. Now this is a pristine picture of the LEM. Right? It's on the moon. This is the nozzle shroud. And the first thing you look at, this guy came down using this engine as a reaction motor. There's not a mark on it. How do you heat something up to 6,000 degrees without blistering the paint or what have you? Not a mark. Look, it's pristine. It's brand new. Okay, and we look at it a little more and we say, hey, wait a minute. Something's wrong here. Right? This pad has a big shadow. See the pad, the foot pad? The shadow running off. The sun's over here. Well, this pad, when you track it down and draw this pad to scale with that pad, the pad ends right about here at the edge of the picture. But there's no shadow. So one pad has a shadow, very pronounced shadow. The other pad, there's no shadow. Or the pad doesn't exist. Maybe it broke off. I don't know. They never reported that. You know, that would have been news. Miraculous landing on 3 feet pad. One's missing. No reports. Again, if the picture is a little clearer, you can see, well, you can see footprints right here. See them?
Yep.
These footprints wander almost underneath this nozzle. Well, how did they get there? Well, the moon, you step on it, soft dust, it leaves footprints, fine. But this guy here had to be blown about 100 psi minimum to sustain this weight in deacceleration. I can take a leaf blower, and they're only a half a psi, and I can dig a hole in stuff like this real quick. Ooh. Half a pound will do that. 100 pounds on the moon, don't do that. I don't know why. I mean, like I say, why not? Next thing, if you draw this in, a few phantom lines, this nozzle is out of the center. It's not in the center of this machine. Well, again, if you had a reaction blast that wasn't centered, I mean precisely centered, the thing would pinwheel. And on the first pin, there'd be no stopping the wheel. I mean, she just splat. But they can do it because this is NASA. Once again, back here, you'll notice the featurelessness start. But in that direction, it goes a little bit further. This time, I suppose, I'm not a professional at these things, but I suppose they had this backdrop a little bit skewed to the camera. Instead of running at right angles, this one went back a little bit by accident or whatever. There's another point here. We know the sun is over here from the shadows. Look at all this light over here. That's the dark side of this machine, the shadow side. And yet, the sun's over there too. Now, on the Earth, we have a fluorescing atmosphere. They'll tell you it's scattering the blue lights, but I've got a simple experiment, proves absolutely it's not doing that at all. Our atmosphere is fluorescing, probably from the electrical pressures of the sun, just like your fluorescent lights do. And they will not admit it. And I've tried to spread it out. I tell them, take a black paper tube, roll it up so you don't get the incident light, put it over a little photographer's light meter, and scan the horizon. You'll see the meter unless you hit the sun. You can't do that. You'll burn your meter up. But if you just don't hit the sun, it says, hey, I'm very bright. Raise it up 10 degrees, 20 degrees. Do it again all around. It's less bright. Until at the zenith, it's dull. There's very few photons coming straight down. I don't care where the sun is. You get the same exact reaction. The sun can be almost overhead in this, like it's in the summer at noon, or it can be down barely coming up. That proves fluorescence, because if it was scattering, the scattering would take place like a shotgun charge. And it would come from one direction more so than any other. But you can do that if you've got a friend with a little light meter. Big scientific experiment. Roll it up a piece of the photographic black paper. It can't be shiny black paper because that will bounce around. Put it over the lens, go, oh, look at that. Big science experiment. Anyway, there is no atmosphere, so there can be no fluorescence on the moon. And yet, every picture they take, the backside is always lit, especially if it's on a flag or a USA. I mean, that gets its own spotlight.
Notice that the upper ascent stage is jet black in the shadow, but the lower descent stage is lit.
There you go. Because there's a flag or something on this machine over there, which you can see, but you can't see it in this picture. It's very small, but it's over here someplace.
silence you when your ears refuse to hear. You turn your heart away from me each time when I draw near. Your eyes refuse to meet with mine, they glance away in fear, as if you should not look at your reflection in the mirror. How can I explain to you when you won't understand? You scoff me and you mock me and reject the truth at hand. You spread your vicious rumors all across this troubled land. You willfully and knowingly transgress from his command. Your mind has been made up for you by people you don't know, whose thought machines control the scene so well it doesn't show. How can I contain this anguish and this pain, knowing that your eyes are blinded by the lies? Have your eyes been blinded by the lies? Have your eyes been blinded by the lies? Yes, your eyes are blinded by the lies. Yes, your eyes are blinded by the lies. Every time I think about the damage that's been done, the anger wells inside me till I'm almost overcome. I want to tear the moon out of the sky and drop the sun. Why do I feel so all alone, like I'm the only